Oh yeah? Yeah. Out of where?
LA.
You know Tim Stacy? Tim Stacy.
Oh yeah.
Raiders.
Yeah.
Buddy.
Okay, nice.
Oh. Come on up. I'll screw you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was with Elliot C. Transition over I'm on. I think, technically 3 years. The Elliot C project was a Legends project, but I was
Got one.
found a list.
Oh, you got that one on?
So, 3 years. Got there in 2014. Yeah. Oh, okay.
All right, guys. We're getting started here. So,
yeah, I know.
I don't have a moderator. So you guys.
Created buzz.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, you're moderator. Okay.
Hi everyone, we're going to get started. Welcome to our panel. We are going to spend an hour talking about bobbleheads, probably more than you ever wanted to know about bobbleheads, probably more than you've ever thought about bobbleheads in your life, but it will be a lot of fun. I want to begin by having the gentlemen on the panel introduce themselves, let you know who they are, where they work, and we will dive in after that.
Hello, my name is Corey Breton, CRO of Legends Global Attractions. We have 5 different properties here in the United States, and then one overseas in London. And then previous to that, I was with Los Angeles Football Club, which is part of the MLS. And then I spent about 12 years in the NBA prior to that, but we don't need to go that deep.
Scott Brasnelli. I'm currently with Las Vegas Lights FC, a soccer football club in Las Vegas. Spent a long time in ECHL hockey doing lots of promotions and bobbleheads.
Brian Sloan, Director of Business Development for Alexander Global Promotions. I've been there for the last 4 years, and before that I spent 24 years working in minor league baseball.
And Kyle Waters, Senior Vice President of Ticket Sales and Service for the WNBA Seattle Storm. Also spent a couple years with Purdue Athletics, the Purdue Boilermakers, as their General Manager of Ticket Sales and Service as well, but currently with the Storm.
Championship winning Storm. So we have a very diverse group of speakers here with a lot of different industry experience, but you all share a component of having some team experience. What role do or have you seen bobbleheads play in your prior or current team promotion strategy?
I think there's different layers of why you do a bobblehead, and we saw this a lot with the Lights FC this year. We kind of started out not being promotionally driven. We were the new shiny team in town, and we had a little bit of a honeymoon phase and had good crowds. But we've actually come to realize in the second half of our season, we might need that added promotion to a game to market, to talk about, for the sales team to drive it. So to me, there's a lot of layers of it, and one thing I've noted to my ownership group right now is sometimes with promotions, specifically bobbleheads, but something that's actually a giveaway item that they're going to take home. What I like about it is it builds the brand in the home of your consumer, and probably with bobbleheads specifically kids, but sometimes not always. When I worked in Bakersfield for the longest time, one of our sponsors was a blood bank, and the CEO, so he was a shaker and mover in town. I don't think he came to maybe one game every 2 years, but he had to have every single bobblehead we did. I mean, it was like part of the sponsorship agreement. So, and he had them proudly displayed in his office. So, to me, that's kind of the added value that sometimes, yes, we're obviously looking at ticket sales, but everybody that went into his office, we were building our brand around town, and it lets the bobblehead run off and sit in an office, sit in a kid's bedroom, and do the branding for you. So that's a side of it I always try to highlight.
Well, I worked for the Everett Aqua Sox for 19 years, and I'd say we did 3 to 4 bobbleheads a year, and we had 36 home games. But it was kind of like an insurance policy that you're going to have a lineup at the gate. And the lineup at the gate means people are coming in earlier, and your per caps see a bump in all your per caps. People are there earlier, they eat, they buy souvenirs. Plus, there's like the butts are in the seats. And so that raises your per cap when you have nights like for bobbleheads. And it's kind of just like an insurance policy. Like even of our largest clients, like the San Francisco Giants, you wonder, well, why are they doing 40,000 bobbleheads? It's because it's an insurance policy that you're going to have 40,000 people in the ballpark spending money. And so, yeah, a lot of teams just look at it. It's like, we'll invest $3 to $4 to make sure the per caps are maximizing your revenues.
With the Seattle Storm, we play 18 home games per season, not including the playoffs. And we, on an average season, where we're at with our ticket numbers, we'll sell out probably 4 or 5 games a year out of like our 18 games. And what we've found is that the bobbleheads have been what like secures those sellouts for us. So we've talked about like 2 different philosophies. Like one, do we take the bobbleheads and do bobblehead nights for games that are really struggling? Like take like our weekday games and like try to get a little bit of a better crowd at those games because otherwise they really struggle because we tend to do better on our weekends. So it's like, do we do that to help the weaker games, or should we pour gasoline on the fire, so to speak? Like take a really good game, but we're not sure if we're going to quite sell it out. But if we put a bobblehead night on it, we'll for sure sell it out. And then also we can increase our prices as well. We do, when we have enough demand and when we do think we will sell out a game and we have enough scarcity, we will sometimes bump our prices up just to maximize the tickets that we do sell. So we've been using the bobbleheads most successfully to take a good game and make it great and make sure we sell out versus trying to lift our weaker games, which I think sometimes they might do more in like Major League Baseball. I'm not sure, but I know for us, we've been using them to try to make our best games even better.
So I was at Elliot C until August of this year. I know they just did their first bobblehead night on Friday. Our head coach is actually named Bob Bradley, so it was the bobblehead night, which I think I half kid, but we talked a little bit in the email prior to this. I don't necessarily know if it is a necessity to drive ticket sales. I think there's a lot of different ancillary elements that add into it. I know I was watching the Golden State Warriors the other night. They're playing in San Jose, and they did a Kevin Durant bobblehead, but he's in a San Jose hockey goalie uniform. So there's cross-promotional opportunities. I think there's brand affinity, as he mentioned. Try to grab some of that local affinity as well. Like if you're doing crosstown promotions with who might be deemed your competitor because they're also playing in the exact same cycle as you, but at the same time you create some collaboration like that. I think that's pretty unique. I also think that they're most effective if you map out an actual strategy that fits with your marketing campaign. So that from a promotional perspective, I think where I've seen teams fail is that you try to go ahead and use it as a stopgap to basically put Band-Aid on an issue when it is a low demand game, and you do it so late that you spend so much time marketing to the audience, to your database, hey, FYI, Thursday's a bobblehead night, but it's much better if you go ahead and build out a program calendar for the entire year that aligns with your marketing campaign as well, so there's a purpose behind it. And then you can go ahead, and that's what baseball, I think, does a really good job with fireworks. If you go to the Pittsburgh Pirates, every Saturday night's fireworks night, families will go ahead and go there, set up, they buy tickets for the game, but they always stay after for fireworks night. But it's predictable as well, because you know every single Saturday game is going to go ahead and have that. So I think it fits into an overall landscape, not just the ticket sales side. And then another element, is the partnership side. If you're looking for sponsors, what better way than go ahead and have a sponsor name attached to the bobblehead than if you're producing 40,000 bobbleheads for the San Francisco Giants, they can go ahead and put an airline partner on it, and then from there, literally put that on there, and then it's sitting in the household, and then typically that can go at an offset cost, and as he mentioned, you can certainly dynamic price if you already have a pre-programmed calendar built out. If we know every third Thursday is going to be bobblehead night, just so happens those Thursday tickets are $4 more, so the cost of the bobblehead is actually built in and baked into the ticket sales cost. So even if the team itself has to recoup that, they've already done that, and they don't have to pull that from the marketing budget. So I think there's a multitude of different ways, but I think bobbleheads are best suited when it's the entire organization sitting down and figuring out how it fits into the overall strategy, as opposed to just a single entity like the ticket sales arm just saying, hey, we need to drive attendance, we need to go and drive just ticket sales. I think if you're looking at it through that lens, you're missing a lot of different opportunities in the other areas of business.
And to that point, I think something that we found this year with the lights, it kind of is exactly what you're talking about, is we decided, okay, halfway through the season we'll decide if we need to do some more promotions. And we planned a bobblehead night in, like 90 days, because that's about as fast as you can get them produced. So we did not plan it out and have it on the calendar and let our sales team know. And it was like one of our worst walk-up Saturdays. And this was just like 2 Saturdays ago. So I was racking my mind, like, this is supposed to be bobblehead night. It was our last Saturday. But we didn't plan, we didn't market it well. Our sales team didn't get behind it for months. So I think that was eye-opening to me. And I've worked for teams in Boise. We had a small arena. So we were like, we sell out our Saturdays. We'll put a bobblehead on a Wednesday. And it really didn't drive those Wednesdays to sell out. So I definitely fall in line with pour gas on it. But to your point, we did ourselves a disservice by not planning for it, and at that point it was almost too late. We should have just said, well, let's just plan for it next year and roll out a better marketing campaign.
I think I think there's another good point too, is like I remember back in the day, a long time ago, when I was with the Phoenix Suns and I was a sales rep there, we did a series, and it was a starting 5, and we're a high demand team, sellout situation, but you package that with a mini plan, and then now you're basically drawing a different demo and you're trying to grow your database. So I think there's appeal to that too. So if you start to go ahead and think about, because typically the ticket sales guys are forced to go to produce the budget or provide the budget for a bobblehead, but in reality every single discipline within an organization is going to benefit. You could use it as lead gen and say, okay, because of this bobblehead promotion, we're going to go ahead and draw a different demo. And we're going to go ahead and drive 1,000 additional leads that we traditionally wouldn't get if we didn't have this. And then in the marketing side, we continue to just down the line. And I think when you look at it like holistically like that, it has a much better chance to be successful, and then it fits more in line with what you're trying to create from a branding perspective too. So I think that definitely an opportunity for teams to do that.
If fans only knew like how much thought went into the bobblehead, right? So we just got a glimpse into the 360-degree approach that you can take with bobbleheads in terms of marketing. Sports fans, we love our bobbleheads. You have a career based on bobbleheads, which is awesome. Are they still doing the trick, or are there other promotions and giveaways that are moving the needle, however you want the needle to move better?
I mean, I think there's a lot of products out there that work, but I think the bobblehead tells a story. I think that that's what makes them unique. People, very rarely you're going to do a bobblehead just in a pose. You're going to have like other things attached to the bobblehead to tell a story. How a player got to the big leagues. Tom Wilhelmsen, who pitched for the Mariners, he was a bartender before. So we did a bobblehead of him when I was with the Aqua Sox, and so he has a bartender's apron on. We had, beer bottles kind of like on the base. And, it tells a story, and it makes it unique, where, a blanket or, a knit cap, I mean, really, other than the team's marks on it, it's not unique. So I firmly believe people always ask me, what's new? What do you got new for us? And I just say it's really the team's creativity to come up with unique ideas that you can tell a story through the bobblehead.
I think another element too of that, though, is when we talk about the 360-degree approach, one thing that's often forgotten is distribution of the bobblehead. The beautiful thing about a bobblehead, it comes prepackaged, and you don't have to you don't have to provide an additional bag. Now all the clear bag, at all the stadiums you have to enter into it to give something out too. Sometimes that can be a restriction whether you give it on an ingress or egress. And some of those elements, does somebody want to go and carry the bobblehead with them while they're at the game all the way around, or you can do it upon exit. And it's like already prepackaged, so to use an operations team, you really don't have to worry about anything either. You can just have them boxed up at the exit, and then you're good to go. So I think there's a part of it from that perspective too.
So are you seeing, being in the field of providing the bobbleheads, are you seeing more teams doing that? Because that's something, we had our disappointing bobblehead night, and I was like, what just happened? But again, we rushed it. It was just our mascot. It was not telling a story. It wasn't that cool. The mascot's cool, but so are you seeing? I think I saw the Phoenix Rising did one of their owners is Diplo, the DJ. So they did a Diplo bobblehead, but it played their goal songs that he made. And so subtle things like that, where like savvy consumers now want more out of their bobbleheads. So are you guys doing more of those?
Yeah, talking bobbleheads. Our company just have a patent for spinner heads. The head spins, and then also just kind of like the fidget spinner, and then the waist spins also. Like two separate ones, the head spin or a waist spin. So it's just, what's that? Yeah, well, it's brand new. We're just kind of distributing, getting information out to teams, and they all want something new. So we figured we'd come out with this. It's the head one's a little demonic. I like the waist. I like the waist one for the mascots.
Exorcist night?
Or, yeah, exactly. Teams are marketing, a big thing now is marketing through movies that are coming out. Like we're doing a bobblehead with the New Jersey Devils, 35th anniversary of Ghostbusters, so they have Ken Danico, one of their players, in a Ghostbusters outfit. The
Star Wars night, those types of things.
I mean, fans they line up for those. I mean, there's no question about that.
I think too, if you can align that with a theme, like at night, then the group sales team can go out and sell it as Ghostbusters night. You have people walking around, the concourse and create a whole theme around it. I think that's when it fits more into like the end of the year. You start to go and build out your marketing plan for the following season, actually map it out so it makes sense.
I'll just add that for us it's been big for season ticket holder satisfaction as well. I know we talked a little bit about how we've driven incremental tickets with it and all that, but usually like our season ticket holders ask before the season starts, like how many giveaway item nights are there going to be, because it's kind of like a part of the deal, sort of being a season ticket holder, having tickets to all the games. So right, it's like what's the value add? And what we've done is we've created members only line entrances. So we average about 7,000 fans per game. But when we do the bobblehead nights, we'll do like 3,000 or 4,000 bobbleheads, and we'll have it be for the first 3,000 or 4,000 fans that arrive. And then we have members only lines. They're kind of like the fast pass lines. So a benefit of being a member is that you're more likely to get the bobbleheads than if you were not a member, because you're going through this faster line. And then the other thing that we've done is we've provided a VIP courtside ticket holder entrance. And we have about 400 courtside seats, and we set aside 400 bobbleheads at that entrance, so you're guaranteed a bobblehead if you're a VIP courtside ticket holder. So to Corey's point, we're trying to accomplish multiple organizational objectives, and instead of just looking at it short-sighted, like, hey, we're just trying to get more people to come, we're using it to accomplish multiple things and satisfy the right people.
I love the focus on objectives and seeing a bobblehead as part of the bigger picture for an organization. If we could just dive into that topic a little bit more and maybe give some advice to those in the audience, like how do you do that? Like what does the conversation look like? How far in advance? Who's involved? Who are the stakeholders? How do we decide what our objectives are with the bobblehead?
I think, and it is kind of Kyle's point, I've racked my brain, and my team has gone around with that, because another prime example, when I was out in Charleston, South Carolina Stingrays, they did a youth jersey giveaway, like my second game working there. And they had a season ticket holder entrance only line that they opened 45 minutes before. So by the time the general public got there, we had 11 of them left. And so it goes to that, like we were trying to accomplish, we're trying to get some new fans. For a lot of people, that's the one, and maybe their first game or the one game they're coming to that year. And there was a line, and I was like, all we accomplished is we just pissed off hundreds of people that aren't our diehard fan. So sometimes for me, like you're right, there's so many angles we're going, but sometimes I think some organizations lose sight of, are you hurting yourself by doing a bobblehead and having a speed line? And hey, you have to invest more and buy more. So for me, sometimes it's tricky because it's like, well, season ticket holders, I already got your money. But you do want to keep them happy, but you also don't want it to be a hindrance, because for a lot of people, you know, if little Johnny talked dad into going to that game to get the youth jersey and then they don't get it, it becomes now a giant negative experience versus the positive it was supposed to be. So I think that's something to be very mindful of any organization you may work for.
You know, something else on that too. Like, so with the storm, to Corey's point as well, like we did a mini plan, and so what we did, okay, so as soon as we announced the WNBA schedule, which we announced like in January, we announced all the giveaway nights with the schedule release. Like it was a part of the business plan. We knew we were going to do it, and once we had the schedule, we announced it with theme nights and the bobblehead nights. And then we also immediately went out with a package that was with all 3 bobblehead nights. And if you purchased the package, you're guaranteed the bobbleheads, regardless of when you showed up. We actually set them aside at a pickup station on the concourse, and you automatically got it if you bought a package. And so we used that as a way to try to upsell people. And also it was kind of a defense mechanism too. At the fan information booth, if we had anybody complain that said they didn't get a bobblehead, they showed up too late, the sales reps were able to say like, oh, in the future, like you should get a mini plan, and I could get that set up for you, and or you can buy season tickets. So we kind of play it that way.
And they double dip though. I've thought about trying to do that, because they come through the gates. Do they get a bobblehead there and then?
That was something that we were kind of worried about. So here, good point. It reminds me a little bit of how we positioned it. So the way that we did position it, I forgot this. We sent an email to the package holders just saying, hey, we're giving the bobbleheads at the gates. If for some reason you don't get a bobblehead, come to this table and we got you. And if I recall right, I think approximately half of the fans didn't even show up to the table that bought the package, because they must have just got them at the doors, and they didn't cheat, basically.
But yeah, it's hard because they could still go to the table, but I think it's kind of like, I don't know how many people were in here for dispensary talk. Like, sometimes there's no perfect plan, you know, and it's like, yeah, you can cheat the system, but we can't think of a better plan, so we're going to roll with this and accomplish it. So that's good.
So some teams actually just do the giveaways for their season tickets or multi-ticket packages, but they specifically hand them out in the concourse so that the teams that come out per game see it, and then they always ask, hey, how can I get one? And then there is a sales table next door and say, well, just go talk to these folks and they can help you get one. They buy like a 6-game undated ticket plan, you got your bobblehead. And so you're making sales in the stadium at the same time, and everyone's a little bit more happy right now.
Do you see teams along those lines? We were talking about, I think the Giants do a lot of this, where it's based on a ticket package for single games, like Grateful Dead night, get the shirt, or but they only give it to those people who buy those tickets, right?
That's becoming more and more of a trend. Yeah, they're selling larger, $50 ticket package. You get your ticket, get your bobblehead, and they only have so many. So they have 5,000 of them only, and they sell out of that. Usually it sells out pretty quickly, and so that's how they get away from, fans that are disappointed.
Well, I think that's a good point too to bring up is that a sellout isn't necessarily a positive thing anymore, right? Now we have the ability to dynamically price, and so it's more about the value proposition and the value add that we can create for fans. And it might be a Tuesday night, and typically we would go ahead and price that out at $5 to $10 and throw another thing on top of it, which basically is a break-even proposition. Versus, you know what, we're going to be okay with a 3,000 person crowd, but we're going to go and price it at 25% higher because we're going to go and add a t-shirt that has Sasquatch on it, or whatever it might be. But there's different ways for that because everybody values everything a little bit differently. It's not about price, it's about the value proposition. And so I think teams are looking, it's not so much this focus from, and then this is dependent on your ownership group and your leadership team, but hopefully they're cognizant enough to know that the bottom line is the most important thing. And what if we sell 2,000 tickets at $50, right, versus selling 10,000 tickets at $5? Like, what's more important to us? And obviously there's per caps and things like that involved, but you can go ahead and kind of makeshift and turn it into something positive, and then create an amazing experience for 2,000 people that are then much more likely to purchase a 3-game plan, which then gets them on the escalator to a season ticket, which is ultimately a membership or wherever we want to go. Which is ultimately what we want to do. So I think there's that transition as well, where a lot of teams are going away from, all right, we need to go and buy 40,000 bobbleheads because we need to go ahead and make sure every single person that comes through the turnstiles, like as long as you promote it on the front end and say first 10,000, there's not much you can do. You might have to deal with 100 people that are going to go ahead and be the wranglers, but it is what it is.
To that point, I think there's the value, like, in people's minds is probably a lot of teams undervalue that. I've seen the ECHL or the Gwinnett Gladiators were starting to do this. So we would do higher giveaway items and charge people $5. So it was $5 frenzy night. So they were buying the giveaway, and people loved it. And little did they know we paid $4.80 for that item. But the value in there for a youth jersey or something, I mean, it can carry a $20, $30, $40 value in the mind of that fan. So I've actually, my old team in Bakersfield has done that. It was eye-opening to me, and it was a way to please people because like they have the choice to go buy it, so you're not disappointed. Like you're going to buy it, you can order enough. So it's another angle to kind of use, and sometimes you can get away doing a higher cost item because you're getting $5 back.
Okay, we're gonna move the topic a little bit. My dad and I collect bobbleheads, father-daughter bonding, and yeah, we all have secrets. That's mine. We went to a spring training game together this summer, and we picked our spring training schedule on bobbleheads. We were at the Brewers ballpark. We're the weird people in line. We are pumped for this bobblehead. And this poor little intern gets sent out to tell us that the bobblehead day is no longer. The crowd loses their minds, and it comes to be that what had happened is the Brewers had switched their sausage partner, and the bobblehead we were about to receive was a leftover from the regular season of the former sausage partner. The new sausage partner found out, and they were none too pleased that this was going to happen. My question is this. How do you best incorporate partners into the bobblehead or giveaway experience?
My experience is because the lead time is 90 days for a bobblehead, that should never happen. Because you know you have bobbleheads. They're going to the World Series, so nobody cares anymore. But money solves everything. But I think that's where an organization, whatever organization it is, needs to have a meeting with each head of each department to go ahead and sit at the table and have these types of conversations almost as once the season ends. So he won the championship, the next day the team is meeting and talking about 2019 and here's where we're going, here's what we're doing. Now, does that happen nearly enough? No, not at all, but that's what should happen to go ahead and avoid that because the lead time for a partner too, and they want to go ahead and be a part of it, they want to be a part of the design. That's the best way to go ahead and get them to go ahead and cover the cost of it. And then I think there's an opportunity too, if you have a partner attached to it, don't just give them the bobblehead. We've done, like in previous lives, whether it's the Delta night or the Bank of California Stadium night, or if there's an educational component, or if it's, I think now you can tie it into a philanthropic effort as well. So it's Cause for a Cure, whatever it might be. There's ways for you to do that and to almost build it out as a community initiative. So it goes beyond, there's the partner, there's the team, there's the bobblehead, and then there's the philanthropic effort that goes back into. So now it's more of a community play as well, which hopefully gets a little bit more lead time on PR, more impressions from a branding perspective too, for both the property and the brand. But it's getting way out in front of it too. So, and then setting specific deadlines, saying, all right, season starts in April. Our cutoff time is March because our first date is going to be in June for a bobblehead. Like by that date, we either have a partner and we decide to go to move forward, or we don't have a partner and we're just going to go to incur the cost. And then you still have time to go and change the price of the ticket to go and cover that cost. So there's different things, I think, measurements you can build in as long as everybody's on the same page from an organizational perspective. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, and I believe it's kind of almost a pet peeve of mine of, like you said, it's what budget is it coming out of? And I've been around a lot of organizations that were like, well, we don't know if we're going to do a bobblehead or a toothbrush giveaway. We'll see what the sponsor wants to do. And I'm like, is the sponsor a sports marketing company? Like, you got to run your business. And so we would always plan at Bakersfield, we were very promotionally driven. We would plan our marketing schedule, and then there's some selling. Like your corporate sponsorship team's got to be on board with. Barber Honda didn't know what was cool. I had to tell them the bobblehead is cool. You're one of our bigger sponsors. You want to be on the bobblehead. So yes, you are. You may have those partners that hey, they want to do something, but
most partners
who runs your business? Yeah, exactly.
Well, most partners
90% of them are like, you tell me what's good.
Yep. Exactly. Tell me the cost. Tell me the distribution. Tell me what date it is, and then we'll map it around.
And you can't run your business waiting for partners to make your decisions for you. So. Yes, that's a pet peeve of mine when I see organizations doing that too much. You've got to plan for it, you've got to sell it. Yeah, you will hit deadlines. That is what made it tricky because we were like, we know we're doing a bobblehead. We know 100 days out is a firm deadline. If we haven't sold it, we haven't sold it. But we had to make that choice of, and I firmly believe we were better off just planning and going ahead with partner or not because we knew it was cool and we were going to sell it in the future.
Yep. And I think there's an opportunity on those when you align with a partner. You can make the CMO, whoever signed that deal with you, look like a superstar in front of their executive board because then you can go and have them out for a suite night. And what better night for the president of that company to come out and literally see brand dominance from whatever brand that might be, from the gates to the end of the game. Like they can go and get the share on the LED or whatever it is. They can get promotional items during the game. So as opposed to giving it to any other partners, they legitimately own and operate that one night. And I'm a big advocate of peak on peak. Let's maximize our opportunity. And whatever tickets we have remaining, let's go ahead and continue to drive the value up. And then the way you know it really works, a bobblehead night, is if you just get on eBay right after and see what everybody's selling the bobbleheads for.
Sell them in the parking lot. Hey,
yeah, I think. I don't know if you guys ever listen to Gary Vee, right?
Oh yeah.
And he talks about all the time how he'll go specifically. And he's a big Jets fan, but he'll always go to different flea markets and things like that. And literally, that's a business model for him is selling these items. And I don't view that as a bad thing. I think that's another distribution channel for our brand to be out there and ways that we would never be able to go ahead as a team. I never could go ahead and put additional inventory, like the Milwaukee Brewers, never could go ahead and suddenly unload all that inventory on eBay and sell it. So we get ridiculed. But if somehow that inventory landed in the hands of somebody who was doing it, then it's completely fine, and no longer is it an outdated sausage partner. It's just really cool, unique bobblehead. So I think there's ways to think about it, and it all comes back to how can I get into all these different distribution channels? How can I grow my brand and take away from how does it sell tickets? It's not about if you're looking at it through that lens, you've already lost, right?
I'll share with the Seattle Storm, what we do is we put together our business plan and we decide what we need to do to accomplish our objectives, right? And so we'll commit and say, okay, we're going to do 3 bobblehead nights. And then our president goes to our VP of sponsorships and says, hey, if you can get sponsors for this, then that will cover the cost, basically, of what would have come from Kyle's ticket sales budget. So get that done. Either way, like I've budgeted for it, no matter what, we're going forward with bobbleheads. We're going to communicate them, like once the schedule's released. And then our VP of sponsorships gives his sponsors a deadline Like, hey, I need to know by this date to get you on the bobbleheads, you know, for like the production, that sort of thing. But ultimately, if we don't get the sponsor, normally we do anyways, but if we don't get a sponsor, we're still moving forward, so we didn't like just wait to do what we wanted to do depending on a sponsor's support or not. And then later on, once the season gets started, sometimes we have like giveaway items that come up that we don't expect, that we didn't have in the business plan, because a sponsor wanted to do something. And those are like a gift to me and my ticket sales team, but we have a hard time maximizing it because it's so short notice. Like for his point, like, you know, it's sort of like the ticket sales reps will give me feedback, like, why do we only have a month to sell this? Like, why didn't we know this forever? I could have sold more packages. Like, I don't know, sponsor just decided to do it. And then the sales reps will be like, okay, well, it'd be nice to know that further in advance. Like, well, do you want it or not? It's not hurting you, you know. But most recently, for the playoffs, we got sponsored by the NHL Seattle with the new team they're trying to bring in here. And they wanted to do rally towels throughout the WNBA playoffs at our Storm games. And so we did that because they wanted to have something in their hands and show that they supported the WNBA team, being sensitive to us being, you know, relocated for a couple years. And that was a huge success. But again, we didn't plan for that. It was like out of the blue, Top Light Wiki calls our president and says, hey, I want a rally towel and support your arena for the playoffs. And we're like, thank you very much. Sounds awesome.
I want to see if there's any questions from the audience. Yes.
So, are you seeing trends like bobblehead being like sports specific? Like maybe it works better for certain sports? I mean, or is it pretty much across the board? To my knowledge, I don't know, and maybe it happens, I'm sure it has, but like an NFL club giving away a bobblehead. Like I've never seen, you know, and maybe it's just because they don't have necessarily need to use that lever, you know, to drive, you know, attendance or sponsorship, that sort of thing. But is it more prevalent? I mean, obviously coming from my background, minor league sports, I mean, that's, you know, kind of your sweet spot, I think, you know, it's in Major League Baseball. But, you know, even from a WNBA perspective, I mean, you know, it's kind of cool, you know, you don't really see that, you know. So I don't know if it's more heavily in other areas.
I think the NFL just, you know, the fact that they have, you know, 8 games, you know, 8 home games in the regular season,
right.
They really don't need to.
Yeah.
But you know, when you're rolling out, you know, 80 home games in minor league baseball, you got to fill that promotional calendar, and you got to drive interest that way. But you know, there's a lot of corporations that are doing bobbleheads because their mascots are the face of the community. There's Ollie's Discount, Bargain Discount is one of my clients. They have over 300 stores on the East Coast, and they put a life-size Ollie bobblehead in front of each one of their stores. And the social media that they get from that is tremendous. They can't buy advertising that's going to cover the cost of you know, that life-size bobblehead, because every kid wants a picture with Ollie's, and it's on Facebook, Instagram, and so it's really across the board. It's really not just sports, and you know, the corporate side is definitely growing.
Cool. There was one thing too that I asked a buddy of mine that works for the Miami Marlins to go ahead and send some items over, and I get these bobbleheads, and one of them is, remember Sandlot, the catcher, the ham?
Yeah.
And they had a ham night. Where he literally, I mean, he has it. So I think even on teams that don't necessarily have star power, he just talked about it. Who in your community, who in your local region is an influencer and attached himself? The Miami sent me Pitbull one, DJ Khaled one, right, and a ham one. And it's like, what is going on here? Like these, because they didn't have the star power because they traded everybody away. I mean, what are you going to do? A Derek Jeter owner bobblehead? Like. So I think from that perspective too, there's a different route to look at. Like it doesn't even necessarily need to be tied to your team. If you align yourself with somebody who's going to be like a brand ambassador for you per se, you can do a bobblehead for them. And I think in a lot of these leagues too, like they're star driven. So to me, the NFL would make sense because they're wearing helmets. People don't see the faces. Where NBA, everybody knows facial recognition. WNBA, facial recognition. I think there's a good opportunity for other leagues to do that. Where they can go ahead and think of creative outlets for it too. So, and then you can tie it into something completely different.
What is the production cost for Bobblehead, and how many suppliers are there?
None other than Alexander.
There's only one.
There's only one.
No, I'm just kidding. There's probably about 4 or 5 companies that are, in the bobblehead game. We're a promotions company, but I'd say it's about 80% of our business is the bobbleheads. And I bought from this company for 10 years, and so they recruited me, and I've been with them for 4 years. I was always happy with the service and the price and what the bobbleheads look like. Trust me, I lost some sleep before making the transition from the team side to the promotion side, because my worst nightmare is, being that guy selling me something that's not going to deliver on time or it's not going to look like it did. And to tell you, I can't even count problems I've had like on one hand in the 4 years I've been there, so which is nice. Yeah, the cost, depending on size, you're looking at between $250 and $450 delivered. I mean, that's pretty much the price to the teams that we sell it for.
What, I guess mainly for the Storm, with obviously with everything going on at Key Arena in the next couple of years, what kind of impact is not playing at your regular arena going to have on the next couple of years for your promotions and giveaways?
Yeah, we're fortunate to win the championship for sure, because with championship or not, we were going to be moved out of there for a couple of years.
Yeah.
So good thing is emotionally we've got the fans really excited. As it relates to rationally, like making it make sense for them, we're trying to provide as many tangible benefits as we can, and we're looking at doing giveaway items, and in general, we are looking to give more to our fans to kind of compensate for playing in a different arena, just because people, I think change is sort of tough. And it's not like we're necessarily moving into like an upgraded arena or like just went through some like awesome renovation that we can be excited about. Like, it's kind of an inconvenient change for us. So yeah, we have to look at doing more giveaways and things to get the end result of making our fans feel and know that we appreciate them. That's really what we're trying to do, is make sure that they know that we don't take them for granted. And so, yeah, it could be a way to accomplish that goal, for sure.
And then you guys already kind of utilize, like with the new arena coming? I mean, is that already kind of something you're trying to utilize, is like get your seats now so you can have kind of first priority?
Support us for the next couple of years with your season tickets to be at the front of the line to get the best seats when we move into this new renovated arena.
Leveraging. I think what you said was important, even for at the lights. As we move towards the end of the year, we probably didn't focus on our fans enough. We're soccer's here, we're downtown Vegas, and really sports organizations are about the fans. I mean, players will come and go. I mean, you're going to have stars, but in the long run, they're going to change. And it's the consistency is when you can get to that level of generations of families have been coming to your games. That's what you're looking for. So parlay that into bobbleheads, something when you were talking about they were doing completely off the wall things. Josh and I actually worked together in Bakersfield. There was we called her Dancing Granny. Like there was this, she was a season ticket holder, grandma, would get up and dance every game and on the video board. So they did a bobblehead of Dancing Granny, and it was like one of their best bobbleheads. And that was so eye-opening to me and great. Now, I'm 10 years later looking at Las Vegas Lights, and I'm like, we need to build up some of our fans that are really supporting us and highlight that, because sometimes me coming into soccer, I grew up in Oregon, so I was like, I don't know about this soccer. I started looking at the Timbers, and there's YouTube videos about the Timber Army more than like the team sometimes. And as like from the fan entertainment side, I was like, that's amazing. That is so great. So I think there's opportunity there, and like Kyle just said, like to really focus on the fans. And sometimes, hey, why not do a bobblehead of a fan?
Mr. Gene.
Oh, yeah, I remember that, yeah. Loyal.
Okay, so let's, does anyone else have a question? Okay. Yeah.
So I know it kind of varies based on the sport and also just the level of sport it is, but like what percentage of your fans do you like want to give a promotional item to? Like do you want to give it to, 50% of your fans and hope that the rest will come out? Or do you want to make sure that every single person who's in the stadium that night has like the bobblehead or a new t-shirt giveaway?
I mean, I'll
once again, completely opinion. There's no science behind this answer, but I think it's no different. Like I'm going to leave here to the airport. Some people are going to be willing to pay for clear. Other people are willing to pay for TSA. Other people are just want to go ahead and go through the traditional. I think when you try to appeal to everybody, you lose. I think, you know, if you got to pick, if that's the end result, then you're kind of fighting an uphill battle, because you're always, as being a ticket salesperson at heart, like literally coming up that path, you're never, if this room right here has 10 people in it, I'm lucky if I get 70 to go and agree with me. 3 of them are going to come up with something no matter what I do, what I say. So when I try to please everybody, I please no one. And so I think it needs to fit with that theme, with that promotional campaign, and how does it fit with our brand, and what are we trying to accomplish? And then the item itself, is it only $450, or is it a $10 item that we only can do 2,000? But those 2,000 people that get that, like they're actually going to go ahead and love our brand, right? And so is it a huge flag that pulls out, and everybody, like Elliot C, similar to like Portland Timbers, the Elliot C experience, I'm biased, but it's pretty incredible. Like if you go to one of those matches, you see our supporter culture there. Like it's really cool and unique. So do we want to just go and do an item just for our supporters to go and say thank you to them, because they bring the energy and the enthusiasm for 90 minutes? So not to copycat, but I think that what's important to me could be completely different than what's important to you. And so to just assume that every single person that's coming through those gates wants the exact same experience, I think is kind of old school. I think where we're going is how can we tailor and customize the experience to each individual, because each of you might want something a little bit different.
Yeah, I think you're critically thinking about it, which is smart. And you're right, budgets come into that, but yeah, based off of what Corey just said, is some people are going to line up early and want to. So that makes some sense for the first 4,000, or maybe 33% or 20% of your stadium. And think about it that way. So you're not overspending for people who could care less if they go home with a bobblehead or not. Because some people they'll line up if they really do want it. On the flip side, I'm always curious. You probably speak to this. Like I'm a Dodgers fan, and they would do like 40,000 of every bobblehead. Like, jeez, spend some money, and I'm like, what price they're getting here, ordering 40,000, but. So they were obviously committing to like almost everybody who comes into the games getting a bobblehead, and it really just depends on, again, critically think about it. Do I want everybody to go home with that on the shelf? So we did 5,000 of them with the lights this year, and frankly our drop count was about that. About everybody got it. But it was eye-opening to me, to Corey's point, how many people, I was standing by the gates monitoring it, and a lot of people were like, oh, what's this? And I'm like, you didn't even know we're doing a bobblehead on a Saturday night. And so I still feel like we're getting some bang for that buck, because they're going to go home, they're going to open it up, and we're trying to build a fan being a new team. But hey, did we overspend a little bit and could have gotten away with less? So.
Well, I think when you guys talk about the fan experience, the Giants and the Dodgers, they want to make sure that no one has to rush to the game. You don't have to stand in line for 3 hours. The experience is you're going to get it whenever you get there. And I think that's what they want to convey to their fans and say thank you for doing that. The sponsor's paying for it 100%, and they're probably making some money on top of that. So it's really a win-win situation. Like I said, it's an insurance policy that the butts are in the seats, you can maximize your revenues.
Something, and this may be stating the obvious, but whatever we do, we have to communicate what we're doing and why we're doing it with the fans. So for example, if we know we're only going to have 3,000 bobbleheads and we're expecting a crowd of 8,000, we have to over-communicate and all the marketing up front be among the first 3,000 fans to arrive. Otherwise, we're going to have a lot of people really angry. What I've found is that when only half the people end up getting the bobblehead specifically, as long as we communicate it up front well, we don't get complaints. Like the people don't get mad at us at our fan information booth or anything, because it was clear and it was up front. But I have had a few experiences earlier in my career when I was on the front lines when people were really mad because they said, you never said that. Like I never saw in the email I had to be among the first to arrive. I thought it was guaranteed. Like those go bad. So I think whatever you do, you have to communicate this is what we're doing and why we're doing it. So we're giving it to everybody because we want to pack the house. Great. Or we're only giving out this many because we want people to show up early.
You guys talked about, not just with bobbleheads, but, you know, promoting a promotion, the importance of doing that well in advance. What are the most successful ways that you found it? Is it through social media, like a radio ad, or is it something else?
And with the storm, we're putting most of our marketing and advertising spend into digital now, because it's trackable, and we're finding that when we track it, we're getting the biggest return on what we're doing through the digital marketing, through digital media and our email blasts and all that. So we've gone away from radio advertising, and we've gone more just online targeting. So that's where we're seeing our best results that we can track.
I think when it comes to the promotion, I mean, advertising is advertising. Is a billboard more digital? Is it trackable more? Is it TV? So the advertising is a tricky question, I think, in general. But when it comes to specific promotions, just trying to be mindful and target who it would appeal to. It kind of sounds like common sense, but even for our group sales team, and it all is planning in advance of like saying, hey, it's a bobblehead, but it's a alumni player, so let's target some fans who used to, we'll look at single game buyers from years past, and just being mindful of who might it appeal to more than other people. But other than that, like, again, a lot of times we'll do the promotion for fodder for our advertising department. So do the traditional, hopefully they're analyzing and doing the best things, but yes, instead of just saying game on Saturday night, say bobblehead on Saturday night.
And then I think there's your membership base, which is a completely different level of communication. Right? I think there's got to be segmentation of your database. Membership, being on the front lines, both as the rep who sold the memberships and the rep who was like, or the person that was like, hey guys, here's what's happening. I think that's the most important group that you have to go ahead and communicate to. And then everybody else will get their information how they get their information. So there are some people that are going to go and get it through Twitter, others are going to get it through Instagram, so you got to figure out and piecemeal it. I do think that there's an opportunity, and hopefully I think all of us would agree, from a team perspective, one of the most challenging things is you work with an agency 1 year, and then the next year you completely changed everything about your promise and your delivery and your theme, and you flip the switch. I think there's a certain level, of the Giants and Dodgers do this, there's predictability. So the fans that seek out the Bobbleheads every single year know exactly that from right when the schedule comes out, they go to that promo calendar, and those fans are finding that. And so if you can build out a 3 or 5 year marketing plan and say, hey, here's our strategy, here's how we're going to build our brand based on where we're at in our life cycle. Because for him and Elliot C, we're at the beginning. Nobody has any innate, like, oh, what was predictable? We didn't even exist last year. So for us, it's building those habits and kind of those formulas, and like, that's what we're doing right now. But for the Dodgers, it's already baked in. Like, I live in LA. You definitely know when it's bobblehead day and people go there and they have to take the hour-and-a-half trek to try to go and get to Ravine and whatnot. But I think there's an opportunity to not only to map it out just for the future year, but to map it out for years beyond that, to build in some level of predictability so people know it's every second Tuesday in the month is going to be bobblehead or whatever it might be.
And to that point, like I wonder, like Vegas, it's booming, but it's a new sports market. So there's so many people that have lived there, the locals for years, that are like, finally, we're a real city, because I mean, there's a sense of pride. Like, I've lived there for a year now. I lived in San Francisco, and when I would get on the Muni, and everybody's like Giants gear everywhere, like I was like, wow, this is what sports can do to a city. And so seeing that happen in Vegas has been interesting. But to that point, like, I was like, maybe they just don't know what bobbleheads are here. Like, I was like, why? This should have been better. And we've seen the learning curve of just a lot of people who, been generations living in Vegas, working in the casinos. They're not used to having professional sports in their town. There's an educational thing, and so it might take us a couple of years before they know we're going to do a bobblehead every year. Don't miss your chance. That type of stuff.
Afraid that's all the time we have.
Oh, wow.
So.
Bobbleheads.